The space station called Meridian floated in the darkness between two distant stars. It was a meeting place, built by many species who had traveled the galaxy for thousands of years. Humans had only arrived in this part of space 18 years ago, and they were still considered newcomers. They were still considered primitive by most of the older races. Commander Lisa Morgan stood near the main airlock with her small team. There were 4 other humans with her. Danny Hawkins was her second in command, a tall man with steady hands and calm eyes. Amy Carter was their doctor, a woman who had studied alien biology for most of her adult life. Kevin Price handled communications, and Nina Santos was their security officer. They were waiting for the Valorians. Lisa had read everything she could find about this species. The Valorians had controlled a large portion of the galaxy for 3,000 years. They were not warriors. They did not conquer through weapons or violence. They conquered through knowledge. Every Valorian was born with the ability to read minds. They could touch another being's thoughts as easily as Lisa could touch a wall. This had made them master negotiators and diplomats. No one could lie to a Valorian. No one could hide their true intentions. This was humanity's first formal meeting with them. Earth's government had spent months preparing for this moment. The airlock hissed open, and the Valorians entered. There were 4 of them. The leader was easy to identify. He was larger than the others, standing on 6 long limbs that moved with strange grace. His body was covered in smooth, gray skin that seemed to shimmer under the station's lights. But the most striking feature was his head. The top of his skull was covered by a transparent membrane that pulsed with soft, glowing colors. Blue and green and purple swirled beneath the surface, like clouds moving across the sky. Lisa knew from her research that this membrane was connected to the Valorian brain. The colors changed based on their emotional state and their telepathic activity. Leader moved forward and stopped in front of Lisa. His 4 eyes studied her with obvious curiosity. "I am Zyrveth," he said. His voice was musical, like several notes played at once. "I speak for the Valorian collective in this meeting." Lisa gave a small bow of respect. "I am Commander Lisa Morgan. I speak for Earth and its people. We are honored by your presence." "The honor is shared," Zyrveth replied. "Humanity is young among the stars. We are curious about your species." Lisa had expected this. She had been warned that the Valorians would try to read her mind during the meeting. It was simply what they did. It was as natural to them as breathing. Human diplomats had debated whether to say anything about it, whether to ask them not to do it. In the end, they had decided to say nothing. They did not want to start the relationship with conflict. Zyrveth extended one of his upper limbs. It was not quite a hand, but it had several flexible fingers that could grip and hold. Lisa understood that this was his species' version of a handshake. She reached out and took his fingers in her own hand. The moment their skin touched, Zyrveth's membrane began to pulse more rapidly. The colors shifted from calm blue to a brighter, more active green. Lisa felt nothing unusual. She simply stood there, holding the alien's hand, trying to project friendliness and openness. Behind Zyrveth, the other 3 Valorians were watching with interest. They were smaller than their leader, and their membranes glowed with softer colors. One of them, who Lisa guessed was named Morthan based on the briefing documents, was recording the meeting with a small device. The handshake lasted longer than Lisa expected. She began to wonder if she should let go, but something about Zyrveth's posture made her wait. His membrane was now shifting through colors very quickly. Blue to green to yellow to orange. Danny noticed it too. He took a small step forward, his hand moving instinctively toward the weapon he was not carrying. This was a diplomatic meeting. No weapons were allowed. "Commander," Danny said quietly, "something seems wrong." Lisa looked more closely at Zyrveth. The alien's 4 eyes had gone very wide. His limbs were trembling slightly. The colors in his membrane were now pulsing red, a deep and angry red that Lisa did not need a translation guide to understand. "Zyreth?" she said. "Are you well?" The Valorian did not answer. His breathing had become rapid and shallow. A thin sound came from somewhere deep in his throat, almost like a whine. The other Valorians had stopped recording. They were moving forward now, their own membranes flickering with obvious alarm. The one called Morthen reached for his leader, but Zyreth held up a limb to stop him. "What?" Zyreth whispered, his voice broken and rough. "What are you?" Lisa did not understand the question. "I am human," she said. "I am just a human." Zyreth's whole body shook. His membrane had turned completely black now, a color Lisa had never seen described in any report. He tried to speak again, but the words came out in fragments. "Your mind. It is not. There is no center. There are too many. How do you? The darkness underneath. It is watching me. It is watching." His limbs gave out beneath him. Zyreth collapsed to the floor of the station. His membrane flickered weakly, the black color fading to a sickly gray. The other Valorians rushed to his side, making high-pitched sounds of distress and fear. Lisa stood frozen for a moment, her hand still extended where the alien had been holding it. She looked at Danny, then at Amy. What just happened? She asked. No one had an answer. Amy was already moving toward the fallen alien, her medical training overcoming her shock. "I need to examine him. Whatever just happened, he needs help." The Valorians looked at her with obvious suspicion, but their leader was barely conscious. They had no choice but to accept the offer. As Amy knelt beside Zyreth, Lisa heard the alien whisper something. She leaned closer, trying to understand his broken words. "I have read 10,000 minds," Zyreth breathed. "Yours was the first that looked back at me. Yours was the first that smiled." His eyes closed, and he went still. Lisa straightened up slowly. Her heart was pounding in her chest. She did not know what she had done or what the alien had seen when he touched her thoughts. She only knew that something had changed in this moment. Something important. Humanity had just made its first impression on the oldest telepaths in the galaxy. And it had terrified them. Amy Carter had seen many strange things during her years studying alien biology. She had examined creatures with 7 hearts and beings that breathed liquid metal. But she had never seen anything like this. Zyreth lay on a medical bed in the station's small hospital wing. His body was stable, but his mind was clearly damaged. His membrane, which should have been glowing with soft colors, was almost completely dark. Only the faintest flickers of gray moved beneath the transparent surface. The other Valorians stood nearby, watching everything Amy did with careful attention. They had agreed to let her help, but they did not trust her. Amy understood their feelings. One of their people had collapsed after touching a human. They had every right to be afraid. Morthen, the second in command of the Valorian delegation, stepped closer to the bed. His own membrane was pulsing with shades of blue and purple that Amy had learned meant worry and confusion. "Can you help him?" Morthen asked. Amy looked at her instruments. Human medical equipment was not designed for Valorian biology, but she had spent the last hour adapting what she could. "His body is recovering. His vital signs are improving. But I cannot measure what is happening in his mind. I do not have the tools for that." Morthen made a low sound that might have been agreement or frustration. "His mind has experienced a great shock. It is like he was hit by a wave too large to survive. He is still trying to swim back to the surface." In the corner of the room, Lisa Morgan stood with her arms crossed over her chest. She had not left since Zyreth collapsed. She felt responsible, even though she did not understand what had happened. "I need to know what he saw," Lisa said. "When he touched my mind, What did he find that frightened him so badly? Morthen turned to look at her. His 4 eyes studied her face, as if searching for something hidden beneath the skin. "You truly do not know?" he asked. "I felt nothing," Lisa said. "I did not even know he was reading my thoughts until he started to react. We knew your people had telepathic abilities, but humans do not. We cannot sense when someone enters our minds." Morthen was quiet for a long moment. The colors in his membrane shifted slowly, moving from purple to a deeper shade of blue. "Perhaps that is the problem," he said finally. "Perhaps that is why he was not prepared." He moved to a chair near the medical bed and lowered himself onto it. His 6 limbs folded beneath him in a way that looked uncomfortable to Lisa, but was probably natural for his species. "Let me explain something about how Valorian telepathy works," Morthen said. "When we reread a mind, we enter it like a visitor entering a house. There is usually a clear path. There are rooms we can see and doors we can open. The mind has structure. It has organization. Different thoughts live in different places." Lisa nodded slowly. She was beginning to understand. "We have read the minds of many species," Morthen continued. "The Cathari think in geometric patterns. Every thought is a shape. Every memory is a structure built from smaller shapes. Reading their minds is like walking through a building made of glass. The Sylvani think in sounds. Their minds are like songs, with different melodies for different ideas. Even the Drawn, who are violent and aggressive, have minds that follow simple paths from start to finish." He paused, and his membrane flickered with something that looked like fear. "Your mind is not like any of these." Lisa felt a chill run down her spine. "What is it like?" Morthen looked at Zyrveth, who was still lying motionless on the bed. "Before he lost consciousness, Zyrveth shared a brief impression with me. It was all he could manage before his mind shut down to protect itself." He turned back to Lisa. "He described your mind as a storm. Not one voice speaking in a quiet room, but 1,000 voices screaming at once. You were thinking about the meeting, but you were also thinking about a child, about a drink, about a piece of music, about pain in your body, about a dream from days ago. All of these thoughts were happening at the same time, crashing into each other like waves in a violent sea." Lisa frowned. "That is just how humans think. We cannot help it. Our brains process many things at once." "Yes," Morthen said. "And that alone would have been difficult for Zyrvoth. But it was not the chaos that broke him. It was what he found beneath the chaos." The room seemed to grow colder. Even Amy stopped her work to listen. "Beneath your conscious thoughts," Morthen said, his voice dropping low, "Zyrveth found an ocean of darkness. You'd call it the subconscious, I believe. A place where memories and feelings are stored that you do not normally think about." Lisa nodded. She had learned about the subconscious in school. All humans knew about it. For other species, this deeper layer is quiet. It is organized. It follows the same rules as the conscious mind. But yours— Morthen stopped. His membrane had turned pale, almost white. "Yours is filled with monsters." The word hung in the air. Lisa did not know how to respond. "Zyrveth found fears in your mind that have no name," Morthen continued. "Fears of darkness and falling and things with too many teeth. He found love and hate existing together, pointed at the same people. He found memories that your conscious mind had locked away, traumas that were still alive and whispering." Amy spoke up from beside the medical bed. "That is normal for humans. We experience trauma. We develop coping mechanisms. Our minds protect us by hiding things we cannot handle. But that is not normal for anyone else," Morthen said. "Other species process their traumas. They deal with them and move forward. They do not carry them forever like prisoners in a cage." He looked at Lisa with something that might have been wonder or might have been horror. "And beneath even that, SciFi found something older, something ancient. A presence that remembered being hunted, that remembered learning to hunt in return. It carried the memory of 1,000,000 years of survival. And when SciFi looked at it, his voice broke. It looked back at him, and it smiled. Lisa felt her hands trembling. She had never thought about her own mind this way. She had never imagined what a telepath might find if they went digging through her thoughts. The survival instinct, she said quietly. The thing that kept our ancestors alive. It is more than that, Morthen said. It is a predator that never sleeps. And it lives inside every human. On the bed, SciFi stirred. His membrane flickered with the faintest hint of color. His eyes opened slowly, and he looked at Lisa with an expression she would never forget. It was the look of someone who had seen something they could never unsee. Your species, he whispered, should not exist. No mind should be able to hold so much chaos and still function. No being should carry a monster inside them and still smile at strangers. Lisa stepped closer to the bed. And yet we do. SciFi closed his eyes again. Yes, he breathed. And that is what terrifies me. The news of what happened spread through Station Meridian like fire through dry grass. Within hours, every species on the station knew that the great Valorian telepath had collapsed after trying to read a human mind. The story grew with each telling. Some said the human had attacked the telepath with a hidden weapon. Others said humans had developed a secret technology that hurt telepaths. A few whispered that humanity was not what they appeared to be. Lisa Morgan found herself at the center of attention. She did not want. Representatives from other species approached her in the corridors. Some were curious. Some were frightened. Some looked at her like she was a dangerous animal that had escaped from a cage. She retreated to the small quarters assigned to the human delegation and called a meeting with her team. Danny Hawkins arrived first, his face serious. He had been monitoring the communications traffic on the station, listening to what other species were saying about them. It is bad, he said, sitting down at the small table. The Kethari have already sent a message to their homeworld warning them about us. The Sylvani are requesting that we be removed from the station. Everyone is afraid. Lisa rubbed her tired eyes. We did not do anything wrong. I just stood there. I shook his hand. I know, Danny said. But they do not see it that way. To them, you are a weapon. Your mind is a weapon. Amy Carter entered the room next, followed by Kevin Price and Nina Santos. They all looked worried. How is SciFi? Lisa asked. Amy shook her head. Recovering slowly. His body is fine, but his mind is still damaged. Morthen says it could take weeks before he can use his telepathic abilities again. Maybe longer. Nina leaned against the wall with her arms crossed. She was the youngest member of the team, but she had a sharp mind for strategy. We need to control this situation before it gets worse. Right now, every species on this station thinks humans are dangerous. If we do not change that perception, this first contact mission is going to fail. How do we change it? Kevin asked. We cannot change how our minds work. We cannot make ourselves less scary to telepaths. Lisa stood up and walked to the small window that looked out at the stars. She had been thinking about this problem since SciFi collapsed. She had been trying to understand why human minds were so different from every other species. Maybe we are looking at this wrong, she said slowly. Maybe being scary is not the problem. Maybe it is the advantage. The others looked at her with confusion. Lisa turned back to face them. Think about what we learned. Every other species in the galaxy has organized minds. Predictable minds. Minds that can be read and understood and influenced by telepaths like the Valorians. She paused, letting the idea form more clearly. For 3,000 years, The Valorians have had power over every species they meet because they can read thoughts. They always know what the other side is thinking. They always have the advantage in negotiations. But with humans, Danny's eyes widened as he understood. With humans, they have no advantage. They cannot read us without hurting themselves. Exactly, Lisa said. For the first time in 3,000 years, the Valorians have to deal with a species as equals. They cannot simply look into our minds and know our secrets. They have to actually talk to us. They have to trust our words instead of reading our thoughts. Amy frowned. But that still does not solve our immediate problem. The other species are afraid of us. Then, we need to show them there is nothing to fear, Lisa said. We need to show them that humans are different. Yes, but not dangerous. Our minds are chaotic, but we control that chaos. We live with it every day. She looked at each member of her team. I want to meet with Morthen again. Not as diplomats negotiating a treaty, but as two people trying to understand each other. I want to explain to him what it means to be human. And I want to do it in front of the other species on this station. Nina raised an eyebrow. A public conversation? That is risky. If it goes wrong, everyone will see it. If it goes right, everyone will see that too, Lisa replied. Right now, the story spreading through the station is about a dangerous human who broke a telepath. I want to change that story. I want them to see a human who is willing to be open, to explain herself, to bridge the gap between our species. Danny nodded slowly. It could work. The Valorians value knowledge and understanding. If you offer to teach them about humanity willingly, they might see it as a gesture of good faith. Lisa took a deep breath. Then let us make it happen. Kevin, reach out to Morthen and request a meeting. Tell him I want to answer any questions he has about human minds. Tell him I want to help them understand us. Kevin moved to the communication panel and began working. While they waited, Lisa found herself thinking about what Morthen had described. The monster inside her mind. The ancient predator that had smiled at Zyreth. She had never thought of herself as someone who carried a monster. She was a diplomat, a commander, a mother. She had spent her career building bridges between people, finding common ground, solving problems without violence. But she was also human. And being human meant carrying the weight of 1,000,000 years of evolution. It meant having a brain that was built for survival on a planet that had tried to kill her ancestors every single day. It meant living with chaos and fear and darkness, and somehow still finding ways to love and hope and dream. Maybe that was what the Valorians could not understand. They saw the monster, but they did not see everything else. They saw the darkness, but they did not see the light that humans carried. Alongside it, Lisa was going to show them. Kevin looked up from the communication panel. Morthen has agreed to meet. He says he has questions of his own that he wants answered. Good, Lisa said. Tell him we will meet in the main observation hall. Tell him to invite anyone who wants to watch. I want this conversation to be public. As Kevin sent the message, Lisa felt something shift inside her. The fear and uncertainty she'd been feeling began to change into something else. Determination. Purpose. She did not know if she could convince the Valorians to see humans differently. She did not know if she could change the story that was spreading through the station. But she was going to try, because that was what humans did. They faced impossible challenges and found ways to survive. They carried monsters inside them and still built civilizations. They lived in chaos and still reached for the stars. And Lisa Morgan was going to make sure the galaxy understood that. 3 weeks had passed since the public meeting in the observation hall. In that time, everything had changed. The Valorian Collective had sent a formal communication to Earth, requesting extended diplomatic relations. The Kithari had withdrawn their warning about humanity and replaced it with a report recommending cautious friendship. Even the suspicious drone had sent a message, expressing grudging respect for a species that could frighten telepaths without trying. Lisa Morgan stood in the medical wing, watching as Xyrath took his first steps since collapsing. The great telepath was weak, but he was recovering. His membrane had begun to glow with color again, soft shades of blue and green that indicated healing. Amy Carter walked beside him, ready to catch him if he fell. But Xyrath stayed upright, his 6 limbs carrying him slowly across the room. "How does it feel?" Lisa asked. Xyrath stopped and turned to look at her. His 4 eyes held an expression that Lisa had learned to read over the past weeks. It was respect mixed with something that might have been wonder. "Strange," he admitted. "My telepathic abilities are returning, but they are different now. I cannot explain how." He took another few steps and stopped again. "I have thought much about what happened," he said. "About what I found in your mind. At first, I saw only the terror, the chaos, the darkness, the monster. I could not understand how any being could live with such things inside them." Lisa nodded but said nothing. She had learned that Xyrath liked to work through his thoughts out loud. "But in the weeks since, I have watched your species. I have watched you work together, argue together, laugh together. I have seen the way you care for each other, the way you sacrifice for strangers, the way you find joy in simple things." His membrane flickered through several colors. "I realized I was wrong," Xyrath continued. "I thought the monster was what defined you. But the monster is only one part of a much larger whole. It is the foundation that everything else is built upon. The survival instinct that allows all the other instincts to exist." He moved closer to Lisa, close enough that she could see the complex patterns swirling beneath his transparent membrane. "Without the monster, there would be no love. Without the darkness, there would be no light. Without the chaos, there would be no creativity. Your species is not broken, Commander Morgan. You are simply built differently than everyone else." Lisa felt something warm spread through her chest. It was validation, but it was also something more. It was the beginning of true understanding between 2 very different peoples. "Thank you," she said. "That means more than you know." Xyrath made a gesture with his upper limbs that Lisa had learned was the Valorian equivalent of a smile. "I have a request," he said. "When I am fully recovered, I would like to study human minds more carefully. Not by reading them directly, of course. That would be foolish. But through conversation and observation. I want to understand how you function, how you turn chaos into creativity, how you live with monsters and still dream of peace." Lisa considered the request. It was an unusual offer, but it felt right. "I think that could be arranged," she said. "On one condition. Name it. You teach us about Valorian minds in return. You help us understand how you think, how you feel, how you see the universe. If we are going to be partners, we should understand each other as deeply as possible." Xyrath's membrane glowed bright blue, the color of agreement and happiness. "It would be my honor," he said. The door to the medical wing opened, and Danny Hawkins entered. His face was serious, but Lisa could see excitement beneath the surface. "Commander," he said, "we just received a message from Earth. The government has reviewed the reports from our mission and made a decision." Lisa felt her heart speed up. "What decision?" Danny allowed himself a small smile. "They want to establish a permanent human presence on Station Meridian. They want to open formal diplomatic relations with every species in this sector. And they want you to lead it." Lisa stood frozen for a moment, processing the news. 3 weeks ago, her mission had seemed like a failure. A Valorian telepath had collapsed after touching her mind. Every species on the station had been afraid of humanity. Their first contact had turned into a disaster, but she had not given up. She had not hidden or made excuses. She had faced the fear and the suspicion head on, And she had found a way to turn disaster into opportunity. That was what humans did. That was what the monster inside them demanded. Survive, adapt, overcome. Tell them I accept, Lisa said. Tell them humanity is ready to take its place among the stars. Danny nodded and hurried out to send the message. SciFi watched him go, then turned back to Lisa. Your species never stops moving forward, does it? Even when everything seems lost, you find a way to keep going. Lisa thought about the million years of evolution that had shaped humanity. The ice ages and plagues and wars. The predators and disasters and countless near extinctions. Through all of it, humans had survived. Through all of it, they had never stopped reaching for something better. We cannot stop, she said. It is not in our nature. The monster inside us will not let us give up. It demands that we fight, that we survive, that we win. But the rest of us decides what we fight for. We choose to fight for connection, for understanding, for a future where all species can live together in peace. She looked out the window at the stars. Those billions of distant lights that humanity had finally begun to explore. The galaxy was afraid of us because they only saw the monster, she said. But now they will see everything else. They will see our art and our music and our stories. They will see our kindness and our curiosity and our hope. They will see what humans can build when we turn our survival instincts toward creation instead of destruction. SciFi moved to stand beside her, his 6 limbs finding balance on the smooth floor. And what do you think they will find? He asked. Lisa smiled, and somewhere deep inside her, in that ancient place where the monster lived, she felt something that might have been pride. They will find partners, she said. They will find friends. They will find a species that has learned to carry darkness and light together. That has learned to be terrifying and kind at the same time. That has learned to survive anything the universe can throw at them. She turned to look at SciFi directly. They will find humanity. And I think, in the end, they will be glad they did. Outside the window, the stars continued their endless dance. Somewhere among them, Earth was spinning through space, home to 8 billion humans who were just beginning to understand their place in the cosmos. They were young. They were chaotic. They carried monsters inside them that could terrify ancient telepaths, but they were also brave and curious and full of hope. They had reached the stars against all odds, and they were not going to stop reaching. The galaxy did not know it yet, but everything was about to change. Humanity had arrived, and they were here to stay. The main observation hall of Station Meridian was the largest open space on the entire structure. Its walls were made of transparent material that allowed a complete view of the surrounding stars. It was usually empty, except for a few visitors who came to watch the cosmos in silence. Today, it was packed with observers. Lisa Morgan walked into the hall and saw representatives from at least a dozen different species. The Cathari stood in neat geometric formations, their crystalline bodies reflecting the starlight. The Salvani hovered in small groups, their musical whispers filling the air with soft harmonics. Even a few Dron warriors had come, standing apart from the others, with their arms crossed and their faces suspicious. Word of the meeting had spread quickly. Everyone wanted to see what the human would say. Morthen was waiting in the center of the hall, standing beside a simple table with 2 chairs. His membrane was pulsing with nervous shades of green and yellow. Behind him, the other 2 members of the Valorian delegation watched with careful attention. Lisa walked forward alone. Her team had wanted to come with her, but she had refused. This needed to be a conversation between 2 individuals, not 2 groups. It needed to feel personal. Thank you for agreeing to meet like this, Lisa said as she reached the table. Morthen gestured to one of the chairs. Thank you for requesting it. I must admit, I did not expect this. Most species would hide after what happened. They would not invite an audience. Lisa sat down and looked around at the gathered observers. She could feel their attention pressing against her like a physical weight. Hiding would not help anyone, she said. Right now, everyone on this station is afraid of humans because they do not understand us. The only way to fix that is to explain ourselves. Morton took the other chair. His 4 eyes studied her with a mix of curiosity and caution. Then explain, he said. Help me understand what Zyrith found in your mind. Lisa took a deep breath. This was the moment she had been preparing for. Let me tell you about Earth. She began. About the planet where humans evolved. The hall went quiet. Even the Solvani stopped their musical whispers to listen. Earth is what scientists call a death world, Lisa continued. I know that term sounds dramatic, but it is accurate. Our planet has been trying to kill us from the very beginning. She paused, gathering her thoughts. When humans first appeared, we were small and weak. We had no claws, no fangs, no armor. We could not run as fast as the predators that hunted us. We could not climb as well as the apes we descended from. We could not see in the dark or smell danger approaching. Morton leaned forward slightly, his membrane shifting to a deeper shade of blue. How did you survive? He asked. Our brains, Lisa said simply. We survived because our brains learned to do something that no other creature on our planet could do. They learned to think about many things at once. They learned to plan ahead while also reacting to immediate danger. They learned to hold fear and hope together, to feel love for our families while also feeling hatred for our enemies. She tapped her temple with one finger. The chaos that Zyrith found in my mind is not a flaw. It is the thing that kept my ancestors alive. A human who could only think one thought at a time would have died in the first winter. A human who could not hold contradictory emotions would have been eaten by the first predator. The Githari observers made a clicking sound that Lisa interpreted as interest. They were beginning to understand. But that is only part of it, Lisa continued. Our planet did not just have predators. It had diseases that could kill millions. It had weather that could freeze you or burn you or drown you. It had other humans who would fight you for food and territory. She looked directly at Morton. We developed minds that could process trauma and keep moving. We developed the ability to lock away painful memories so we could still function. We developed a part of ourselves that was always watching for danger, always ready to fight or run, even when we were asleep. The monster, Morton said quietly. The presence that Zyrith described. Lisa nodded. We call it many things. The survival instinct. The fight or flight response. The lizard brain. It is the oldest part of us, built from 1,000,000 years of evolution. It is the part that never stops watching, never stops hunting, never stops trying to keep us alive. She spread her hands on the table. When Zyrith entered my mind, he met that part of me. He met the predator that my ancestors became in order to survive. And that predator did what it always does when something unknown enters its territory. It looked at him, Morton whispered. It looked at him, Lisa confirmed. It evaluated him as a potential threat. And then it smiled, because it was not afraid. It has never been afraid of anything. Fear is something the conscious mind feels. The monster underneath only knows one thing: survive at any cost. The hall was completely silent. Lisa could see the observers processing what she had said, trying to fit this new understanding into their picture of humanity. This is what humans are, Lisa said, raising her voice so everyone could hear. We are chaos and order existing together. We are fear and courage in the same heart. We are love and violence, separated by nothing more than circumstance. We carry monsters inside us, yes, but we also carry everything that makes life worth living. She stood up from her chair and turned in a slow circle, addressing the entire hall. I understand that this is frightening. I understand that you have never met a species like us before. But I want you to understand something else. She paused, making sure she had everyone's attention. We are not your enemies. The monster inside us is not hunting you. It only wakes up when we are threatened, when our families are in danger, when our survival is at stake. If you treat us with respect and fairness, you will never see that monster. You will only see the other parts of us. The parts that build and create and dream. The parts that want to explore the stars and meet new friends and learn new things. Lisa turned back to Morthen. Humanity is offering the galaxy a choice. You can fear us because of what we carry inside us. Or you can accept us as partners who will stand beside you through any challenge. Because the same thing that makes us dangerous also makes us loyal. The same thing that makes us terrifying also makes us brave. Morthen was quiet for a long moment. His membrane cycled through several colors before settling on a calm, thoughtful blue. You are asking us to trust you, he said finally. Lisa nodded. I am asking you to give us the chance to earn that trust. Not through telepathy or mind reading, but through our actions over time. The old-fashioned way. She extended her hand across the table. What do you say? Morthen looked at her hand. He looked at the gathered observers. He looked at the stars visible through the transparent walls. Then slowly, carefully, he reached out and took her hand in his. His membrane flickered. But he did not pull away. On behalf of the Valorian collective, he said, I accept your offer. Let us learn to trust each other. A murmur went through the gathered observers. Something had shifted. Something important. Lisa squeezed Morthen's hand gently, then let go. The first step had been taken. There would be many more steps ahead, many challenges and misunderstandings and difficulties. But for the first time since Zyreth collapsed, Lisa felt hope. Humanity had made its case to the galaxy. Now they just had to prove it was true.